writing characters. It's one of the keys to writing good fiction. So I'm going to tell you some of the things I've done that have helped me create characters, and I think they can work for no matter what your style of writing is, and whether you like to have the controlling style of writing everything down beforehand, or if you like to be free-flowing and creative, which is more my style. Either way, these principles will work. The first one is to peel back the layers. I think no matter how much you know about your character beforehand, or whether you're like me and you know very little as you start a story, it's really fun to peel back the layers. In a dialogue, for example, a character might say something and you think, wow, I'm not sure I understand why they said that. Why are they so angry about that or sarcastic, or why did they back off in that situation? Those type of things help me discover more about my character, and sometimes I don't even know for hundreds of pages what the issue is in the character's life. Now that's not the way you're taught to do it in class, but that's the way it is in real life. We meet people, they come to life as we get to know them more and more. 6 months later, you might hear them say something about their past, and you think, wow, that explains a lot of the things I saw leading up to this. And for me, that's the way it works for writing my characters. And that's a lot of the fun. That's where the hard work turns into fun as I peel back the layers. Another thing is to walk in their shoes. This is important for any fiction writer, and I think it's really just an aspect and a quality of life that's important, is to learn to put yourself in others' shoes, have empathy. But especially with characters, as you're writing a scene, you want to think of whose point of view is this being written from. That's something we'll discuss in another segment, but if we're thinking of it from a certain person's point of view, how are they hearing the words that are being said? How are they reacting? What sort of things are they doing in response to the words? What things are they saying? In an action scene, do they back off from the action, or do they rush into it? But you won't know those things until you walk in their shoes. The third thing would be know their fears and desires. As I said earlier, sometimes I don't know those things right up front, but there's always one or two controlling issues that I'm aware of with my characters. With Aramis Black in my Aramis Black mystery series, I knew that he had seen his mother shot before his own eyes when he was a child, and that had created fear in him, and he tried to cover a lot of that by his own violence, his own overreaction to things around him. And his desire, more than anything, was to have family, to have wholeness, to have connection again. And that came up, for example, in a scene where he was meeting another woman, a mother who had lost her son, and he ends up reaching out and holding this woman's hand that he barely knows as they're walking down the street. She's an overweight woman, not somebody he would have any romantic attraction to necessarily, because she's older than him. But he reached out and held her hand, and it surprised me. I wasn't expecting him to do that. Some readers didn't think it made sense. To me, it made perfect sense, because it was his desire reaching out and wanting that connection. So know your character's fears and desires. Usually there's at least one main fear and one main desire that you want to know beforehand. They're going to propel the story forward and coincide with your plot. The fourth thing I would say is let them surprise you. Just as Aramis Black reached out for this lady's hand, I could have taken that out of that story and decided, you know what, I'm not sure that makes sense. Would this big tough guy really do that? But the fact that he did it, as I was writing the scene, surprised me, and it made it that much more real. There's things that we do in life that we surprise even ourselves, and I think you can bring a third dimension to your characters, bring more depth and resonance with them when you let us see some of the good ways they react to things that we would never expect. They rise above, take the high road, or maybe sometimes they trip and stumble. Maybe some of the things you would want to do in real life but you don't do, let your characters do them, see where it takes you. And last but not least is sights and sounds and the things that bring a character to life visually, as if we were in a movie. Now, some authors don't give us any of that. They just let us create a character in our mind. Some give us way too much of that. Sometimes your minor characters, you can go ahead and give them something that's a little more memorable, just so that when they walk on the scene, we know who they are, we don't need to be reminded, there they are, and they fill their cameo roles. In fact, that's what I thought my character Sergeant Turney was going to be in my first and second novel, and then he ended up coming into some of my other novels. And Sergeant Turney was an overweight a police sergeant, and I just gave him some very almost caricature-like things to describe him. But he all of a sudden came to life, and characters tend to do that when you give them a little freedom. He came to life, became a main character in the story, and I've had readers tell me he's their favorite. So have fun with it. Come back next week and we'll talk about some more stuff regarding the writing process and that horrible first sentence.